very good evening and welcome to the NTV Fourth Estate. The week has been dominated by news of moves by different opposition political parties. Key among this was the agreement between retired Kano, Dr. Kizza Besigye, the former president of the Forum for Democratic Change, and the new kid on the board, Muntu. We also have a senior journalist with us tonight to discuss this issue, Irene Kizza. Irene, you're welcome.
Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you. Major General, you're welcome to the Fourth Estate.
Thank you, Barbara.
How are you? Have
Good
you been?
evening, dear viewers.
Thank
I'm
you.
fine.
I'm your host, Barbara Mong, who will stand in for Charles Mangusha, who is away doing his exams. So, Major General, we'll start with you. The Alliance for Transformation is set to launch on the 22nd of May. And we've heard from members of the party that's going to be a big launch. We'd like to know from you, tell us, how do you intend to make the Alliance actually different from the other political parties that we know? We've seen the FDC launch. We've had several other opposition political parties launch in the past before. How different is the Alliance going to be from the other political parties that have actually launched before the Alliance?
I think our identity will be realized by our people in this country with the passage of time. Because when it comes to what we will project in terms of what we stand for, most likely they would have heard about that in the last 57 years. But with the passage of time, what people will get to realize is the practice. Because we'll either succeed or fail, depending on what we do. Talking, all politicians have said all kinds of things, and will continue saying all kinds of things. We will project ourselves as parties. We will project ourselves as politicians, as leaders. The problem has never been what is said. The problem has never even been the principles, the objectives that we always say we stand for. Not even the policy alternatives that have ever been heard of since 1962. The problem has been the consistency between what is said and what is done. And that's where we're going to focus most as the Alliance.
Major General, like you said, the problem has actually been what is said and not said clearly. Would like to know, what will the Alliance actually stand for? What will people know you for? Because as Ugandans right now, we know there's a party that's called the Alliance, but we don't even know what you stand for.
On 22nd, actually, one of the things we are going to launch, besides the unveiling of the particulars, the unveiling of the names, the colors and the slogans, we'll also be launching the policy agenda, what we stand for. And that's one is going to be one of the areas of focus in the next 2 years, to project what we stand for in terms of health, in terms of education, in terms of agriculture, in terms of job creation, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of the fight against corruption, in terms of gender issues, in terms of the youth, but also the values that we stand for as an organization. But most important, the training that we'll have to conduct internally, and also the efforts to attract people who believe in those values, because that's what will make a difference. The more people that we would attract who subscribe to values and the objectives and the principles that we stand for, and also the training that would have to conduct, not only in the party leadership, but even the candidates that would have to run on the party ticket. That's the most critical area, because our analysis shows us that from 1962 until now, it's not that there has ever been lack of good policies. It's not that there has ever been, it's not that there have never been any good people who want to establish systems of good governance. They have always been there since 1962. The problem at this point in time, at no point have they ever been the dominant force in any government or in any party. They are always marginalized or manipulated out of the positions of influence. And therefore, the balance of forces since 1962 until now has always been in favor of those who want to use power to advance their own self-interest. We want to correct that imbalance to build a critical mass of leaders in the party. So the balance of forces is in favor of those who want to do things that would advance good governance in this country. We will either succeed or fail on that. When we are able to attract a critical number of leaders in a structural way from top down, but also across generations, so that when one generation of leaders is leaving, the next generation that gets in continues on the same path around the objectives that we have set ourselves. That's what we want to focus on.
Yes, and every politician and every political party, when they're launching, the promise is that the people will be at the center of this political party. It will be people focused. But how do you plan to get your message, to get the people outside Kampala to actually appreciate your principles, appreciate these values that we're yet to actually hear from you, that you really need to tell us what exactly it's that you actually stand for. But how do you plan to involve the ordinary person outside the capital Kampala in this political party? How do you plan to attract them and make them participate in this process, and so that they're at the center of this political party that you're talking about?
Two ways. Of course, one is through the media. All channels of media will have to engage through all different channels, but also to physically go down, send teams that are going to go and start building, first popularize the party, mobilize, and also recruit the leaders that would be targeting, that would know that the moment you have a majority of leaders, one, who are believed in the localities where they come from, but also leaders who have integrity in the areas where they come from, at the village level, at the parish level, at the sub-county level, at the constituency level, at the district level, up to national level. So for the next 2 years, we are going to hit the ground 24/7 and keep talking about what we stand for and attract more and more people, and also through the media. Basically, talking about simple things. Future has got people who are able to ensure that, one, if you talk about justice, that you're going to practice it. If you talk about democracy, you are going to be democratic. If you talk about zero tolerance to corruption, that the way you practice at whatever level you are at, that you are fighting corruption. If you are talking about fairness, that you are fair. We have to, one, attract people who already are formed in that way, who are already believers and also practitioners of those values, but also concentrate effort in training people who are already within the party, because people change. There are times when, at times, they don't have role models, so there have to be a lot of, we'll create the internal environment in which the young people who are coming to the party, even the people who have not been in politics, there are quite many people who are actually expressing interest, which is quite an encouraging thing. People have not been in politics at all, but who are coming in because of the message we keep putting out. And the more of those that we get who already believe in the values that we talk about, then the more we'll be able to become a credible alternative political force. And and then you keep on attracting more and more people when you practice what you are talking about.
That sounds interesting. At this point, I would like to bring in Irene. Irene, you've listened to Major General. Do you think the Alliance for Transformation actually stands a chance in the political arena right now?
Why not? I think the alliance stands a chance. First of all, it has names of people we think have, have done some things. We've seen them come from some political places and move. But like General said, my issue is, my biggest concern is how are they going to attract people? Barbara, there's a surging number of Ugandans that don't belong anywhere. And these are right from the top up to the grassroots, like we want to call them. People who just don't care. People who, there's a system that has brought Ugandans to start thinking politics is not something for them. So there's a surging number of Ugandans that need to be attracted back into thinking for their country, into participating in politics positively. By the way, it is very interesting. So many people in the corporate world don't even vote. They just don't vote because, well, they don't believe in things. I mean, in the political arena, the way it is moving. But the question is, how do you attract people to come into politics and, act properly, or, participate the way they should participate? And also, do they understand what they're participating in? Because many times people say, we don't know those things of politics. The way somebody said, politics is the way women treat, these days, for many Ugandans, the way women treat football. When you talk about politics, they just say, don't tell me about politics. People are just, and unfortunately, the people that would have helped those who don't know anything are the ones that are not interested. There's that big group of people who don't know anything. Like when you go in the villages and you start talking to people and telling them, you see, this is going on. Even when you tell them things about changing constitutions and all things, they don't understand. They just keep asking, so who wants to change what? Why? I don't know if it's deliberate, but our people have been kept in the dark for so long. So if the Alliance is talking about education of even the people in the parties, it sounds good to me. If they're talking about attracting people, it sounds good. And I think, yeah, the Alliance stands a chance. Why not?
Well, it's interesting that the Major General is talking about establishing structures, and is known actually for favoring establishing formal structures at the grassroots before moving to the districts, before moving to the parliament level, before moving to the national level. But also we have a school of thought which says that the current political landscape that we have do not and will not actually favor the approach that the Alliance for Transformation is preaching. And that will actually lead to its death right from the beginning. You tend to agree with do you agree with that thought, that this is actually going to fail before it starts?
I don't understand. I mean, how in this world do you expect to crown something that doesn't have a base? I don't even know why people think. Let me tell you something. There are no politics. There is no political party that is going to win without having a base at the grassroots. I mean, which kind of president are you going to choose? A president that doesn't have anyone? I mean, that's what the political parties did. And I was so disappointed when we were electing the women councils. People just went and stood on the side. And NRM is boasting and saying, I picked everything. We have everything in our hands. Look at the youth councils. We need to go down there. I mean, everybody who wants to, the other parties need to be present. Because most people just know there's a party. And then maybe they know some names of people who have stood for so many times. So I think it's not right to say that let's just be on the top. I think that's not right.
If I may bring you into this, Major General Mugisha Muntu, we've seen you on this political arena for a decade plus, and you've preached building of structures, the grassroots structures up to now. But also, this actually failed to take off for the FDC. And I think this was the major point of disagreement between you and the FDC. But what are you going to do differently this time? Because we've seen this strategy not work for the FDC. And the FDC currently say that we need to go streetwise. We cannot spend time building structures. It doesn't work in a country like Uganda. So what is it that you're going to do differently that will actually see the Lions for Transformation move from the grassroots up to the national level?
I think the opportunity that we do have now, not only ourselves, but FDC as well. FDC can concentrate effort and utilize all the time that they have and all resources on what they believe in. They can concentrate on building their capabilities around defiance. And it's the same opportunity that we do have now, that would concentrate on building capabilities around, one, building an organization that is grassroots based. Two, making attractive, so we can attract good people in terms of leadership in the party, in terms of the candidates that would have for the different levels for elective politics. Also attract resources and pump those resources in making the party stronger and stronger. Are there challenges? Absolutely, because the environment is hostile. But we know that in life, every good thing must be fought for. Nothing comes easy. I mean, we have seen successes in many areas of endeavor, by individuals, by organizations, by corporations, where people start from scratch and go through so many impediments. But the more you focus on something that you believe to be right, and if it is right that you need to do it, and you concentrate on it, eventually you keep on overcoming those impediments until you succeed. And that's why we keep focused on the idea of building the party in that respect, because we believe in it. We believe it can work, and we believe it will work. Now, the new thing that there is that at least now we won't be having internal struggles like we used to have in FDC, because we had two different tendencies. We failed to harmonize them for them to work side by side, because by themselves they were not in conflict. We could have used them either simultaneously or sequenced them. But unfortunately, it seems we didn't have the skills to do that. So we spent more time fighting internally than concentrate on those two strategies. Now that we are separate, for us, we feel at peace. And I'm only hoping that FDC also feels at peace, because when you are doing something that you believe in and you don't have contestation all the time, then it releases you. We feel released ourselves. And we will go down and do everything humanly possible, 24/7. And eventually, I think time is going to make the ultimate judgment.
Time to make the ultimate judgment.
Yeah.
It's just 2 years to
2 years?
2021.
Less than 2 years.
Yes, less than 2 years. Do you actually have the time to build these structures, to do all that you say you're going to do, and still participate in 2021 elections?
Absolutely.
So do you have the time on your side?
I believe you can, if you concentrate effort and resources, in 1 year and a half you can be in the 9,000 parishes in this country. And once you're in the parishes, you'll also be at the sub-counties. And if you are parish-based, you can also access all villages.
So we are going to see the Lions for Transformation on the ballot paper come 2021.
That one depends, because down the road, if we succeed in building coalitions, then we may have a different structure. So, because two things that we are going to be doing. One, as we build our capabilities as the alliance, we won't be diverted from that. Simultaneously, we will be reaching out to other like-minded organizations to work on the possibilities of a coalition.
Okay. That's interesting. Let's go for a break. And after the break, we'll come and discuss the question and the ideas surrounding the lives of opposition political parties in Uganda. Welcome back from that break. Tonight we are discussing the launch of the youngest political party, the Alliance for Transformation. And in the studio, we have Major General Mugisha Muntu. We also talking about the major issues of the week, and that's the agreement between the People Power and several other political parties to work together. And one of these political parties is the Alliance for Transformation. Major General, what's your relationship with People Power?
When we started the process of separation with FDC, it came to our awareness that we needed to keep briefing the other political organizations in the opposition. So we consciously and deliberately decided, at that time we were called the New Formation, or later we called the New Formation. But even before we became the New Formation, even when we were still undergoing the internal processes, we started reaching out. And we regularly briefed the leadership of People Power, Honorable Chagulanyi, the leadership of DP, Honorable Mao, and the leadership of JEMA, Honorable Wasairo. Even when we became the New Formation, we kept on briefing them as to where we would be, where we intended to go. And at the time when we were registered, we again briefed them. The purpose of those regular briefs was to start establishing ground for the building of trust amongst ourselves. And also for them to be aware that much as we were building a new organization, that we also believed in a coalition. We believe in communicating. We believe in the building of trust, because eventually, even when we reach a point of reaching any agreements, even when we reach a point of putting our signatures to any document, we do not think that is the document that is important. It is the trust that would have been established amongst the players that would hold them together, not the document, because we have seen many documents which have been signed in the past and nothing comes out of it. So, as we speak now, we have good working relationships with all those three political organizations, or in the case of Honorable Chagulanyi, which is not a party, but we maintain contact with them. And we also intend to keep doing that, because we think it is good that we build or establish a firm foundation on the basis of which we can plan any processes that would lead to a coalition in the future.
Irene, we've had alliances before. In 1996, we had that working alliance between the Uganda People's Congress Party and the Democratic Party. And at that time, they supported Paul Semogere. And after that, we had the Inter-Party Conference. And after that, we had the G6, which was the coalition of 6 different political parties.
Yes.
But all this just did not go beyond what was on paper. Do you think...
TDA?
Yes, we had
In
TDA
2016.
just
2015.
before 2016 elections, that actually they failed to agree and FDC walked out. And there's several issues that they always fail to agree on a single candidate, both at the national level and then also at the constituency level, where they say, who are we going to support as member of parliament, or even just as the LC in this area. So there's several points of disagreement. So right now they're talking about alliance. What are your thoughts on this? You think this is something that will be different this time around? Will it work?
We have tried it and it hasn't worked. That's why you need to have a lot of faith to think it will work this time. Because the problem we have, I'm sorry, I'm going to say something a bit crude, but I think we are greedy. We can't sit and say we are 5 people and we believe this is the best person to have because of A, B, C, D. So we probably need to just front this person and let's all follow behind. Everybody wants a little something. And I don't know where all that started from. First of all, like I said in the break, our people are so impoverished. There are those that will come into organizations or alliances to just attract something from somewhere, or they just want to be seen so that when somebody can call them and say, you know, come and I give you this and the other. That's what I believe. Otherwise, I don't see the reason why people want to do alliances. Because the only reason you do alliances is for you to lose some and gain some, Barbara. But if you come to an alliance and say, everybody must listen to me and do everything the way I want, then that is not an alliance. And I think that has been the biggest problem. Because one of them believes, okay, I am the biggest in this. So these are my ideas and they must be followed. And another contention always comes when they start deciding who's going to stand where, among, especially on the MP seat. So they start thinking, okay, this is a strong person, but this is also a strong person. And then they don't agree, and then all those divisions start there and it just falls out. So I don't know. You need to have a lot of faith to believe in an alliance now. And I don't know. I was going to ask, why is everybody going to people power? Why? I don't know. Because I think somebody just needs to stand and say, look, this is what I have. And then if it is a good thing, people will come. Because the question we are asking ourselves is, what are our people looking for? Are we answering their questions? It's not a frenzy, because every frenzy dies out. That's my thought.
So that's interesting. So Major General, how, because you've heard what Irene is saying, and Ugandans have become so cynical about alliance between the opposition political parties, and they say that they fight each other more than fight together. They fight so much about who is going to be the leader than fight to build this alliance. So how different is it going to be this time around, that to give Ugandans that hope that this is going to go beyond what's on paper? How different is this alliance that you're trying to build?
First, we understand where that comes from. We understand the skepticism that there is in the population. They've been banned so many times since 1962. I don't think they have seen any group of political leaders who do things consistently in the interests of the population. The tendency has been that many of us who are political actors are seen to advance our own interests over and above the interests of the population. So the population is bound to be skeptical. However, there has to be a turning point. In everything, there's always a turning point. And therefore, people who believe that we must put effort together to work towards that turning point, we can't give up. We must keep working towards that until that turning point is reached. And two, in the alliance, I know that there are people who are focused on building a coalition simply for the purpose of removing the current regime. Our thinking tends to be different in the alliance. We are not looking at the building of a coalition just simply for purposes of removing the regime. We are looking at building a coalition because we know the challenges that are ahead. The post-Museveni period is going to be so challenging. And you need good will and good working relationships with the political actors that will be involved in the post-Museveni period. Because if you don't consciously work for that, you can spend more time squabbling than contending with the challenges that we are going to be facing. And yet we have got 40 million people out there waiting to be salvaged from all kinds of challenges that they're caught up in. And two, we have got a very fast growing population. In the next 25 years, we are estimated, the projections that we may hit 100 million people. 25 years, 30 years is such a short time. So any serious actor has to work consciously and deliberately to ensure that consensus has to be built. Good working relationships have to be established. So that when you are facing the challenges that we are going to be facing inevitably in the post-Museveni period, that you are focusing more on the solution, to offering solutions to the problems, than trying to like what happens when there is no consensus in political groupings. You can spend many years squabbling. As the Alliance, we want to avoid that. So not just trying to put together a coalition just simply to remove a regime. It goes beyond that. It's deeper than that. And we will put in effort and believe and hope that it will succeed, but also build our own capabilities. Because at the end of the day, we will not just depend only in the event that a coalition succeeds. We must know that first and foremost, even for a coalition to become strong, its strength will have to be drawn from the strength of the component parts. Because if you put together weakness, you can't gain strength. You must bring together strength. And that's why we will do two things simultaneously. Building our capabilities, but also putting effort in building a coalition. So that when we are in a coalition, that we know that we are putting strength into the coalition. Not only strength in terms of our infrastructure, but also strength in terms of our internal stability. Because another thing we have focused on as the different formations is that we must work around the clock to ensure that our subunits by the time we come into a coalition are stable. Because the stability of the coalition would be dependent on the stability of the component parts. If the component parts are unstable, there's no way you can create stability at the top. Just not possible.
Irene,
Yes.
there's a lot of division within the opposition political parties right now. And Major General here, correctly puts it that you cannot come together when your foundation is shaky.
Yes.
It's weak. The DP, the other day, we saw on TV, saying that we've come together. But with all the divisions that we're seeing, the skepticism is still there. We've yet to see a common denominator that brings the opposition political parties together beyond saying that we need President Museveni out. But the young people in this country are asking that. We're not asking the who will be leader. We're not asking the who will replace President Museveni, but we're asking the what. From what to what? You have the youth right now who will be the biggest number of voters in 2021 elections. And actually about 35% of the new voters will actually also be young people who are voting for the very first time. We're going to register for the very first time. We're yet to see a message from the opposition political party that actually specifically talks about the young people and all that. So this alliance, your thoughts on it?
I don't know. Oh, okay, let's wait for May 22nd and see, because he says we shall learn so many, like General says, we shall learn so many things from then. But like you rightly say, Uganda's population is now mainly young. You can imagine, I think 70% of the relationship is youth. So if you have an agenda that doesn't address issues concerning the youth, then you have no agenda. And you see, that is where the biggest problem is. And not only, the males, even women, the young women. You need to, like I said in the beginning, you need to attract them back by having a message that seems to answer them. Otherwise, they'll all say whatever it is, let's just wait, because for them, they were born during Sevo, and all they know is Sevo, and that is what they know, and they don't know so many things. Although they have so many questions, issues of integrity are biting hard. Even young people just, they've faced a lot of corruption, because when they go out there looking for jobs, people will tell them all sorts of things. They kind of lost hope, and somebody needs to restore their hope. Somebody needs to speak to them and redirect their thoughts. We need to have a change of mindset, so that our people can then come up and say, let's come and participate in this. But like you rightly say, if any alliance doesn't address the issue of the youth, I mean, I think the biggest reason why everybody is running for people power is because of its leader. Because he's speaking their language, he seems to be answering their questions. Although I have a problem with the way he's answering those questions also. It's not really sustainable to me.
Yes, the biggest challenge right now is the question of the youth in this country. And we have agriculture as the biggest employer in this country right now. But then also the contribution from agriculture to the GDP is going down. So more and more people are getting employed, the young people in agriculture, but then the GDP is going down, meaning that the people who are getting involved there are not actually earning anything. The source of living is threatened. When we come back from the break, we'll discuss the position of the youth in the 2021 elections. Welcome back from the break. Tonight we are discussing the alliance between the various opposition political parties. And what we're seeing right now is that at the center of this is a young parliamentarian, Honorable Kyagulanyi, popularly known as Bobi Wine.
Yes.
And one of the biggest arguments is that everyone is running to him because he's young. He identifies with the young voters. He identifies with the new voters we're going to have. Either they've been on the voter register before, or it's the first time they're getting on board. So we've had the Alliance for Transformation announce their working relationship with Honorable Bobi Wine. We've seen retired Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye and the People's Government also announce their working relationship with Honorable Bobi Wine. And we've seen the Democratic Party led by Honorable Norbert Mao say, we too willing to work. He's become the magnet that's pulling all these political parties together. So is he likely to be their presidential candidate? Or they just want to use him as a youth to actually popularize their agenda? Yes.
Like I was saying, I think the youth, you can't ignore the youth. But like you rightly said, if agriculture is suffering, and the majority of the youth had been employed in that sector, then whoever is thinking about the youth needs to give them answers to probably ways of them getting modern agriculture, mitigating climate change issues. There are some of them that really don't want to move from the agriculture, but they need it improved. And then I think the biggest challenge in the job sector that have affected the youth is also the many that have tried to go and seek employment elsewhere, and how they are suffering, especially in the Arabic countries. There are so many, all those people that send videos crying out, Uganda help us, and nobody's helping us, people are quiet, are young people. And if it's nobody, the political organizations have to have answers for them, because they are looking for jobs, they are looking for survival. And when they go out there, they earn very little money. But they come back battered. Some of them actually don't come back, they return bodies. And all those things, those are the questions that the youth have. By the way, they have very, very significant demands. And if we don't focus on those, I liked it when General said that the Alliance is thinking about continuity, because it is also something that has frustrated young people, because when they go into those political parties, they don't see where they can fit in, because people have become permanent furniture.
It's interesting that when you look at statistics from the different agencies, it shows that in the last 5 years, we've actually had 10.5 million Ugandans retrogress, meaning they've become poorer.
Yeah.
They are not progressing in business. They're not progressing in their career. Their source of income is actually dwindling. 10.5 million Ugandans. And what we see is that the agriculture is not serving them. The policies in place, the youth feel it's lacking. The level of unemployment amongst the youth ranges between 3.2 to 85%, depending on which statistics you're actually looking at. And is it government statistics from the international organizations and all that? There's a lot of argument around that.
Mm.
And we have a city that's growing with a lot of young people. In this city, you have about 22 buses that arrive in Kampala every single day. And the majority of people in those buses are the young people coming to look for jobs. Most of them end up in, doing informal jobs, border, and all that.
And also bad jobs.
Irene, do you think the challenges that we're seeing here, can Bobi Wine, is a youth, yes, but can Bobi Wine actually solve those challenges?
No. I was straight to say no. That's why I think that's where the alliance helps. I don't think he has the tough. You know, the problem is that I think, I call this a frenzy. People are just excited, but we need to understand what is the experience. What is what is his understanding, the depth of these things? Yes, he might have people following him, but I honestly don't believe this is a very big problem. And Uganda has set itself up for a period. You know, Uganda, whichever we vote in 2021, we need a long period of recovery. And the earlier we start on the recovery process, the better. Because number one, we don't have employment. Our mindset is so bad. Ugandans have changed a lot in terms of we don't know where we are going. Our constitution has been, it's not the constitution that we would want to have. I'm sure anybody would want to change it first thing. There are so many things that people need to do.
Major General, what is it that is making the Alliance for Transformation work with Bobi Wine?
We are working with all opposition forces so far, other than FDC.
Yes, the rest are political parties, but this is an individual. Because People Power is a movement, it's not a political party.
Even with many individuals, there are many independents we're working with in Parliament. Members of Parliament, they have 58. So there are many we are working with. However, you also must recognize that Honorable Kyagulanyi is attracting quite a number of young people. That's a fact. But if you look at that as an asset, and then all of us who are in the opposition who want to create change, not only in terms of removing the regime, but also changing the future and shaping it in such a way that it is able to respond to that population that is growing very fast. As you have said, actually under 35 years now, about 75% thereabouts. But actually under 15 at 52%. But at least in the alliance, what we want as we build our capabilities, as we work towards a coalition with all political actors, we also want to create an environment internally within the alliance, working with the many young people who are joining, to concentrate on them knowing two things. One, that the youth bracket they are in is transitory. It's not a permanent. In another 20 years,
they will not be youth.
They'll not be youth. Two, to know that within that period, that's when they're energetic, that's when they can be creative, that's when they can be innovative. But so have all people in the politics of this country within that age bracket. We keep raising this deliberately and consciously so that the youth look beyond age and know that there are other factors, additional factors, that they must seek for, which have eluded us since 1962. Because in 1962 at independence, the late Dr. Milton Obote, the late Sir Kawaka Mutesa, actually were around 35, 36. Many ministers in the first Obote government were below 30. The late John Kakonge, the late Grace Ivinjira, and quite a number of others were below 30. When we took over power in 86, many of us, senior commanders, and even ministers, were below 35. Some of us actually were below 30. Dr. Wejo was below 30 when he was the Minister of Internal Affairs. I was below 30 when I became the commander of the army. So therefore, the issue is not just about age. I want to concentrate on that within the alliance, for the youth within the alliance to understand that they must start seeking for that has eluded all of us, even when we were youth at this point in time. Because if it was just a factor of youth, then the politics of this country would have been on the right track. So what is it that has eluded us all that period? What has been sought for so that it becomes part of their understanding, part of their consciousness, so they can apply it. And also, two, in the 60s until now, there are many people who fought for causes when they were youth. Many collapsed along the way, and they joined the negative forces. Many kept standing, and they kept on fighting until their death. So again, the issue is, why did some fall on the west side and join the negative forces, and others continued fighting? What is it that was in those who kept on fighting until death, but kept on track in terms of fighting for the cause? They have to seek for that. But we will dwell on that a lot within the alliance, so that even when those of our generation are stepping aside, that the youth have got that has eluded the rest. At least those of us who have kept standing and kept on fighting, we have got to pass on that to those who are going to be in the vehicle that is the alliance. So that even when we are transiting out and they are transiting, they wouldn't be transiting in because they already be in, but that they can sustain fighting for what is right. It's a critical area, and we will spend a lot of time on that.
Who are actually the youth on your leadership? Could you share that with us?
Well, they'll be coming out.
Actually, because you're pointing you're pointing out two things to us. And actually, this will be, if you could make this part of your concluding remarks, is that you saying the youth is going to be at the center of this,
yes.
And this is going to be a people-centered political party.
Yeah.
But so, could you just point to us who are those youth who are going to champion the political dream of the alliance?
Yeah, first, of course, as naturally happens, or tradition in parties, all parties have youth wings. We'll have,
so who is the youth wing leader of the alliance?
Just a second, we'll be having a youth league. But besides the youth league, if you see that 75% of the population is below 35, naturally you'll find that there are many leaders. They don't even have to be in the youth league who are involved in influencing decisions within the organization. And purposefully and consciously, we are going to concentrate a lot in attracting young people. And we're also hoping that we'll be attracting young people who are focused on how to shape the future. We've been working on this for the last 1 year, and we really feel gratified that we have exerted a lot of effort in that direction, because many are getting attracted, because there are also many who want to operate within a vehicle which makes values as the core of whatever they want to do. So on 22nd, we'll be unfolding the the transitional leadership, because we'll be having a transition leadership for around maybe 1 year, which will be preparing ground for elections for the substantive leaders to run the party for the next 5 years. And there'll be quite a number of youth. And I'm really very happy that quite many.
A transitional
are-
leadership, are we going to see you retire in the next 1 year?
No, not necessarily. I may not even be in the leadership of the following.
Okay, and also
of what comes out after that. But in terms of acting within the party, in terms of giving it support in all ways, we will keep participating until all of us work together to ensure that there is a firm foundation on the basis of which good governance can be established in this country.
in the event that the alliance fails or the alliance is not going to fill in a presidential candidate in 2021, would the alliance support Honorable Bobi Wine? Since he has already declared he's going to run for the 2021
Our
elections.
main concentration, that's what we keep communicating to the colleagues we work with, is that let's focus on building capabilities around in the organizations where we are, according to what every organization believes. We don't want to go into the issue of leadership yet for us as the alliance, because we don't want to be distracted. We are a young party. There's a lot that we need to do within the 1 year. We won't even be focusing on the leadership of the alliance itself in terms of who the flag bearer would be. We don't want to be diverted. We want to build capabilities grassroots up, consciously, deliberately. Why? Because we know that even at the point when we have a flag bearer, whether he or she is just a flag bearer of the alliance alone, whether he or she is the flag bearer of the coalition as we build it, the only fighting chance any such candidate would have to take power is because of the strength of the organizational capabilities that would be in the component parts. We want to do our part so that whoever takes the flag can take power. There is nobody who's going to take power because of the strength of his or her own individual strength. Anybody who's going to take power in this country is going to be because of the capabilities put behind him or her by organizations or the networks that would have been done. Because like in the case of People Power, they don't believe in the structural part of parties, but they build their own networks. And once we bring strength together, at that point we can determine who becomes the leader. We don't want to engage in that now.
Interesting. Irene, in under 10 seconds, what's your final word on this?
I'm kind of surprised because because the main opposition for the opposition is the NRM. They have already said this is our flag bearer for 2021. Like it or not, this is the person that is going to stand. And they're already marketing their candidate. So I start thinking, isn't it about time? The opposition also got just that one person that people should be focusing on. You know, unfortunately, we have reached where we are is that we do things so individualistically. So people don't think about you anymore as so-and-so who is coming from this alliance or this party. People look at you as an individual. And that's why at one point, FDC was not about FDC. Now, that's why people are saying, no, Dr. Mr. shouldn't come back. Because you see, we've had him all the time, and people are not thinking about him in that sense of being a political party, but as an individual.
Okay.
So I think because individual, maybe it will help us kill that. But for now, we need to focus
on building political parties.
Political parties.
Thank you so much, Irene Kiza, a senior journalist. Thank you so much, Major General Mugisha Muntu,
Welcome.
the leader of the Alliance for Transformation,
National.
the Alliance for National Transformation, the youngest political party in the country right now. I've been your host, Barbara Mong. Good night and God bless.